There's another story coming right up, and you can always learn more about Theodore Tugboat on the internet. Find us through PBS Online.
Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Boda, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
Hello, guess what? My little sailor I made won second prize in the Big Harbor Craft Contest. I can hardly wait to tell my friend Rodney. Maybe I'll phone him right now. He'll probably want to run right up and see it. Hello, Rodney. Guess what? My little sailor won second prize in the Big Harbor Craft Contest. Uh-huh. Oh, that's great, Rodney. Rodney, I can't talk right now, okay? No, I got a lot of things to do. Okay, bye. You know about that? Rodney won first prize. Isn't that wonderful? How come I don't feel wonderful? Maybe this is like a few days ago, when Theodore could hardly wait to tell his friends something. It was the kind of crisp, clear morning that always made Theodore feel like exploring. So you can imagine how excited he was to be sailing all the way down the coast to Cayley's Cove with a big load of bumpers. There was so much to see. Even the ocean beyond the big harbor seemed different. It was so big, like it went on and on forever. I'm going to try and remember everything I see today so I can tell my friends all about it, Theodore said to himself. Well, he wouldn't have to try very hard to remember. How could he forget seeing a shiny black whale playing right there beside him? Or that big white thing floating over where the water met the sky? What is that? Theodore wondered. He decided to take a look. As Theodore got closer, the thing seemed to get bigger and bigger, and colder and colder. Why, it's an iceberg, Theodore suddenly realized. Wait till my friends hear about this. Theodore was still thinking about the wonderful things he'd seen when he pulled into Cayley's Cove. At the dock, he could see his two new friends. Dorothy Dory was floating absolutely still at Troro's side, her eyes wide with amazement. Theodore smiled. He knew right away that Troro was telling her one of his stories, because that was the only time Dorothy Dory ever stayed still. The sky was as black as night, Troro rumbled in his best storyteller's voice. Then what happened? Asked Dorothy Dory. And thunder was pounding like 100 drums. Dorothy couldn't even wait for Troro to take a breath. Then what happened? She asked eagerly. Suddenly, Troro went on, as if from nowhere, crash! A giant whale slammed right into me. I saw a whale today, too, Theodore called out. He was so excited that he didn't even wait for Troro to finish talking. But Dorothy didn't mind. I mean, she was just happy to see her friend Theodore. Oh, tell me all about it, she cried as she hurried over to Theodore. Troro, though, didn't seem as interested. In fact, he looked kind of grumpy. Well, don't you want to hear the end of my story? He asked Dorothy. Oh, not right now, said the little Dory. I want to find out all about the whale and Theodore's trip. I can't believe he came all this way himself. and with a big load of bumpers, too. Theodore was just going to say that it was really nothing when Truro said it for him. Well, they're just a bunch of old tires, he said in a not very nice voice. Well, even if they were, it seemed like kind of a mean thing to say. It made Theodore just want to go home right then and there. With Dorothy chatting happily by his side, Theodore quickly unloaded his cargo and got ready to go. Promise to come back soon, Theodore? The little Dory asked excitedly. Sure, said Theodore, who wasn't really sure he wanted to come back at all. Goodbye, Dorothy. And, goodbye, Truro. But Truro didn't answer. He was at the dock, pretending to be too busy even to say goodbye. Theodore fired his engine, and he headed sadly back to the big harbor. All the way home, Theodore wondered why Truro had been so cranky. Theodore was so busy thinking that he didn't even notice the pretty scenery, the splashing whale, or even the beautiful big iceberg. In fact, Theodore didn't cheer up until he saw Hank floating at the entrance of the big harbor. Hey, Theodore, Hank called. I've been waiting for you to get home. You'll never believe what I saw today. A great big fish right at the ferry dock. Suddenly, Theodore remembered about all the things he was going to tell Hank. Well, I saw a whale, Theodore began to say before Hank had finished. It was gigantic, and I got really close, and it was diving and playing, and... Theodore stopped. He thought Hank was going to be really excited to hear about the whale, but well, Hank wasn't smiling at all. I better go now. I got things I have to do. That whale was probably way bigger than the little fish I saw, Hank said sadly. Well, that's not like Hank, Theodore thought as he watched his friend sail away. Why is everyone acting funny today? First, Truro doesn't want to talk to me, and now Hank. I didn't even get to tell him about the iceberg. That evening, Hank still seemed a little sad. Theodore hoped story time would cheer him up, and he thought he had just the story to do it. Guess what I saw today, he said to his friends. A great big iceberg right outside Cayley's Cove. He was just going to tell them how it looked like a big floating snow fort when George interrupted. Emily and I saw that iceberg too. It was little compared to the big one we saw down the coast. Wow, your iceberg must have been huge, Hank said. Was it bigger than Benjamin Bridge? Kodak jumped in. The others crowded around George and Emily with their questions. Theodore floated off alone into the big harbor. He felt sad as he drifted away from storytelling time. It seemed like his iceberg had just melted away. Nobody wanted to hear his story anymore. Next to my little iceberg, George and Emily seems as big as a whale. A whale, Theodore repeated to himself. Suddenly, he thought he knew why Hank had acted so strangely this afternoon. He turned and hurried back to the great ocean dock. By the time he got back, the tugs were getting ready for sleep. Theodore snuggled up next to Hank. "Hank? Hank?" he said, gently nudging him. "Yes, Theodore," yawned Hank. "You know, I was so excited about the whale I saw today. I forgot to ask you more about that big fish. If you're not too sleepy, I'd really like to hear about it now." Well, for the first time that day, Hank gave Theodore a big smile. "I'm never too sleepy to tell you a story, Theodore," he said happily. The next day at the morning work meeting, the dispatcher turned to Theodore. "I've got another load of bumpers for Cayley's Cove," he said. "I hope you don't mind going again." Theodore didn't mind at all. He had something very important to do there. In fact, he was so eager to get to the cove that he didn't even look for interesting things to tell Dorothy once he saw her again. Soon, Theodore sailed into the little fishing village. Troro looked away, but Dorothy, as usual, raced up to meet him. "Theodore! Theodore! How was your trip? What did you see along the coast?" She couldn't wait to find out. "If you want to know about the coast, Dorothy," Theodore answered in a voice a little louder than it had to be, "you should ask Troro." "Troro? Why ask Troro?" "Because Troro knows more about the coast than I do. I bet he's got some really good stories to tell." "You're right," said Dorothy, turning to Troro. "You know, Troro, I'd like to hear that story about the storm again." "Me too," added Theodore. Well, all of a sudden, Troro wasn't as busy as he seemed to be. In his best storytelling voice, he immediately launched into another tale of adventure. He even took Theodore and Dorothy out to where he'd been when he was caught in the storm. "You know," he said along the way, "one of the few places I haven't been is the Big Harbor. I'd love to find out more about it." "And I'd love to tell you about it," answered Theodore, smiling. Soon, they were trading stories like the best of friends. Well, I don't have to tell you, it was a great day for Dorothy. And as it turned out, it was a great day for Troro, and Theodore too.
Excuse me, who could that be? Hello. Oh, hi, Rodney. It's Rodney. Yes. Oh, I'd love to see your model. You'd love to see my model, too? Oh, great. Well, see you soon. What do you know about that? He's coming right over. I think we'll have as much fun as Theodore and Troro, don't you? Thanks for visiting us here in the Big Harbor. We'll see you all again next time. I wonder what colors Rodney used on his model.
Theodore, he's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Voda, Hank and George and the harbor master too.